Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada. We love the African Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful August the 7th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we're getting tears from heaven again down here. It's raining. It's always raining. I keep wishing that they would move the planet around and get some of it out to California with all the devastation going on, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because those people most desperately need it. It's now the largest wildfire in U.S. history. It's burning the size of Los Angeles up in Mendocino County, Charlton, and so much devastation to the good people of California, Charlton. You just hope and pray that, Mother Nature changes its course sometime soon.
Yeah, we do believe that. They have unhealthy air alerts everywhere. And just when you think it doesn't really matter, people might think, oh, it's just a little bit of smoke and haze. But there's ash on everything in California. Even if you're about 150 miles away from the epicenter of the fire, that ash is traveling all over the state. And it always looks like it's almost nighttime at sometimes because it's so heavy. So I do hope that, again, thank you for all the firefighters, especially if you're elderly. Check on your elderly parents. A lot of times they can't reach out and call you because they don't know how to do all the stuff with the smartphones and everything else. But I hope that people can just heed that warning. I do want to say that today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. So, Big C, I still want to touch on that fire because they were saying if anyone's ever been to Los Angeles, I think there's over 13 fires right now in California alone. And then down south, you guys are getting rain. But we have, for the first time in my life, I've heard about a fire tornado, where the fires are tornadoes, and they can suck the roof off of a house, so a person standing by a tree doesn't have much of a chance. How much do we have to heed those warnings, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, unfortunately, 9 people have lost their lives in these, ravaging fires that are going through California. And so if that's not enough to make people heed the warning, Charlton, I don't know what will. The property is going to go. Don't worry about that. The fire will consume that, unfortunately. But that's why we have insurance and memories, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, without your life, you have neither one of those things.
Yeah.
So heed the warnings. These government officials who are telling you to leave, these civic officials, the firefighters, Charlton, that are risking their lives and limbs every day, and a lot of them have lost their own personal property out trying to save other property.
Yeah.
But that's what first responders do, Charlton. They don't put themselves first. They put someone else first. And, I want to give the praise to those people, Charlton, who go out. And some of these fighters are working 24-hour shifts, Charlton, before they even get a break.
Yeah.
So, all the prestige and praise in the world, when we think about our national government spending time blasting other people, Charlton, instead of praising our first responders, which should get the utmost respect from our administration on a daily basis, Charlton, for what they're going out and doing in trying to save lives and property of other Americans.
Yep.
That's true American first, Charlton.
Yeah, I know.
That's when you talk about making America great, Charlton.
Yeah.
Our first responders make America great, not our politicians.
That's very true, and we know that sports can galvanize our society, and I just want to get your thoughts, because down south, I was talking to someone from Chicago today, and they were saying how it's raining in Chicago, and I think he lives close by Wrigley Field where the Cubs play, and we brought up the topic of J.J. Watt for the Houston Texans, who has actually raised a lot of money when they had the floods down south, especially they hit the state of Texas very hard, and they raised millions of dollars. But I think something that we take for granted is that those fires don't care how much money you have. They don't care what your political affiliation is. They couldn't care less what color you are. They don't care. They don't care about this wall that POTUS wants to build. They couldn't care less. They just take whatever's in their path. So it seems like we deal with it too often in California, but the opposite's happening down south where you guys get this deluge of rain, and then even when you get, I guess, if it's Corps that comes in or the Army Corps of Engineers comes in and helps out, they still have to deal with the same thing, it seems, almost every year. How do you ever get prepared when it's just going to happen again, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, in California, this has become not a seasonal thing, a yearly thing.
Yeah.
When you think about the fire devastation that has occurred in California, I recall last year they had the fires in Southern California. Then after that, the rains came, Charleston. You had the devastating mudslides.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that's going to happen this year in California. This is all part of climate change, Charleston. When you think about when you get the melting of the polar ice cap, Charleston, and the warm weather has moved up north.
Yeah.
And so by getting warmer up north, and they have fires going in Alaska right now, with the melting of the polar ice cap, Charleston, it is no longer pushing cold air down to the southern part of the United States.
Yeah.
And so it's always warm. That's why you're getting a reduction in rain, Charleston, and an increase of heat on the West Coast, because it's going up and around now. When it hits the coast, Charleston,
yeah.
the polar stream is going higher. So that's less rain on the West Coast, and you can see that with less and less rain. I'm not a meteorologist, Charleston,
yeah.
but global warming is real. Yeah, I know we got a lot of people saying it's not, but you got to look at the greenhouse gases that are produced in California.
Yeah.
Look at the number of automobiles, Charleston, the power plants in California. And, you know, they're talking about burning more coal, Charleston.
Yeah.
You know, these things are burning off of diesel and coal. That's changing the atmospheric pressure, Charleston. And if people think that it's not, all you have to do is witness these fires year after year.
Yeah.
The lack of rain year after year. Go back 50 years and look at the environment. It wasn't like it is now, Charleston. When the water tables are dropping in states because of the excessive building and drilling for wells, Charleston, because no one is building dams any longer to hold back the water.
Yeah.
And that water is critical when you have these fire seasons to go out and help fight the fires, Charleston.
Yeah, so we know that's part of just living in the Golden State. California is really a desert for a lot of people who think about, whoa, the Golden State, let me go out there and experience some of that Golden State, living right next to the ocean. Not everybody lives next to the ocean. It's golden because it's a desert and man has inhabited it. And I just hope they can get a hold of these fires, but it's a tough go because it's still windy out here, and so that's a lot for them to deal with. I do want to speak of a situation that came up in the world of football. Now, you and I are always talking about what's fair. What's fair for everybody, Big C. And I look at North Carolina, at least 13 football players. They're going to miss at least one game this season because I guess they self-reported to the Ncaa that players were selling shoes issued by the team. Now, it's just, to me, it's anathema that when a player sells something, make money, that's a violation, but you can get free labor, and that's not a violation. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, this goes back a long way, and not just with North Carolina, but the issue with North Carolina is that they had these special issue Jordan shoes that were issued out to the players. Now, on the street, some of these shoes sell up to $7,000 a pair.
What? $7,000?
Figure out the individuals that will pay $7,000 for a pair of sneakers.
A dumb person.
You know, yeah. And so players were getting $500 and up for these sneakers that they were receiving. Now, this is not the first run-in with the Ncaa and university players selling memorabilia. Now, if you go back to Jim Tressel at Ohio State,
yeah,
he had several players get in trouble like this. You know, when Aaron Pryor was the quarterback back there, they were selling these pants that the seniors would receive.
Yeah,
you know, online, and they were getting up to $1,500 a pair for these special senior pants that they were given.
Yeah,
they had gold stripes on them. But when you look at the Ncaa saying that a player cannot profit from his own likeliness, only the university can. That's what's wrong. You know, if you're going to give a player these shoes valued at a certain amount, shouldn't somebody have to pay taxes on it, Charleston?
Yeah.
Shouldn't the university have to pay taxes?
Yep.
Or the player pay taxes on it, Charleston? Because it's considered value.
Yeah.
And so if you're giving the player something of value, that's not part of his uniform. And these shoes weren't part of the uniform because these were basketball shoes given to the football players. So they're not part of the playing gear, Charlton. So this is giving a player an expensive gift beyond scholarship and playing.
Yep.
So isn't that a violation by the university that you're extending a gift to a player that could be worth thousands of dollars?
Yeah.
So, but the NCAA is not looking at the university in a violation stance, but they're looking at the player saying, you can't profit from anything you have. Now, you think about it. If the shoes belong to the player, Charlton,
yeah,
that's personal property. No longer is property of the university. It was gifted to him. So shouldn't you be allowed to do with as you choose?
You would
whether
think
you
so.
want to give it to someone or someone wants to give you compensation back for it, Charlton?
Yeah.
That's wrong and overreaching by the NCAA.
It's amazing you mentioned that because I know there are times when the schools will have merchandising available, and especially a lot of high schools will do the same thing, and they'll sell their memorabilia to the public to raise money for fundraising. When I look at, there's one more thing. I had no idea those shoes were about, did you say $7,000 in value?
There's been some that have gone high as $7,000 on market.
Okay, now, I mean, I wonder did they have gold in the shoes? Did they have diamonds in the shoes, Big C? That's something that Oprah would buy a $7,000 pair of shoes, but even for the consciousness, and I want to touch on this because maybe it's just me, because I'm a little bit anal with a lot of things, but how would an athlete have so much money to contribute, especially in this climate, a $7,000 pair of shoes to a student athlete who can't make any money outside of that free labor they got to give for the university? They can't get any money from it. The consciousness of an athlete, whether it's Jordan or anybody else, that says, hey, broke kid, the kid who can't work or make any money from your efforts, here's a $7,000 shoe. Now, Big C, we know a lot of times if you choose between being hungry and eating, most people choose to eat. Talk about the incentive of a person not to sell a shoe. They know the value $7,000. That could pay their rent for a lot of people. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, think about it, Charlton, beyond just the scope of the shoe. So if you have a car and you're a student and it's in your name. So what the NCAA is basically saying, if you sell your own personal car for profit, that's an NCAA violation, that you cannot do that.
Yeah.
I guess if you have a bake sale on campus and you're athletes,
yeah.
That's an NCAA violation.
Yeah.
You have to be a non-athlete to have a bake sale. And you think about fraternities do all kind of things, Charlton.
Oh, all the time.
To raise money, whether it's a barbecue, bake sale, car washes, whatever. So if athletes go out and do these things, now they're in violation of the NCAA rules, that they cannot go out and earn any type of income, is what they're saying. So I guess all the athletes who have summer jobs basically are ineligible to play.
Wow.
And, I'm perplexed on all of this, how the NCAA wants to sanction and police this, where you get coaches with multi-million-dollar contracts, assistant coaches with million-dollar contracts, and you're telling the player he can't even go to Burger King and get 2 for $6.
Yeah, I've been there too, Big C. I know when I think about the consciousness of people, it's one thing to say go get your money, and coaches might make $6 million, $3, $4, $5, $7 million, $10 million. I think for guys like Saban and Urban Meyer, they're up around that echelon, and that's just their contract. That's not including what endorsements they sign with the shoe company to give them a few extra $1 million on the side. And they
when you talk about shoe companies, Charlton, Nike just signed a $40 million deal with the University of Clemson. So you think about it, they're pumping $40 million into the University of Clemson over the next several years. So we know that they're with North Carolina, and now Clemson in the ACC also just gets a $40+ million deal over the next several years. So the rich keep getting richer, and the players keep advertising. Think about it. The players are your personal endorsers and can't get any revenue out of them. They're the one wearing the product during game day. We notice what they're wearing on their jersey, the swatch on their jersey.
Yeah.
We notice the shoes on their feet. We notice the socks on their calves. But to say that you can get anything beyond a pregame meal as a team, now you become ineligible.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know that we've talked about it before, but you would start seeing, if you go back 20 years ago, I don't think you saw a lot of the advertising on the shirts. Right now, a lot of the conferences, especially in the bowl game, they'll have like a Big Ten patch or a Pac-12 patch and an SEC patch, a WAC, Mountain West, etc. Well, that's also conference advertising because it's there for a reason. That conference is already getting TV revenue for airing those games. And then they'll make the players, and you look at the jerseys, a lot of them will have a Big Ten swatch or a Pac-12 or SEC or a Mountain West or a Big 12, and that is just more branding for that university. So they're even using the players for that. But I want to get your thoughts because you've been around a lot of student athletes over the years. I think this rubbing it in their face when you advertise how much the coaches and assistant coaches get, but you get a shoe given to you that's worth $7,000, which I don't know why that makes any sense, that you couldn't give out a $7,000 scholarship as opposed to a $7,000 pair of shoes that people are going to run on all day. What will it take to reach the consciousness of the NCAA and start naming who they are when they want to find people as opposed to saying the NCAA? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the consciousness, is non-existent, Charlton. As long as all the executives are being paid, that means you don't have to spread the revenue. This is the situation with players. Everyone says there's a slippery slope if you start paying players. It's not. 10% of every coach's salary goes towards his team's revenue that you disperse amongst the players equally, Charlton.
Yeah.
Regardless of the level of college football, basketball, baseball, hockey, track and field, whatever you're paying that coach, you take 10% of that and you dole it out equally amongst all the players on the team, Charlton.
Yeah.
So Nick Saban's got to break out, $9 million. He got $900,000 out to pay the Crimson Tide players.
Yeah.
You go down to a lesser coach, Babu Sweeney, I think he's only getting $7.
Oh, only
$700,000.
Only $7 million.
As we go down the hill, Charlton, you find a coach who's making $4. That's $400,000.
Yeah.
So it's not a slippery slope, Charlton, on how to pay the players.
Yeah.
It's just you refuse to pay the players, Charlton, because when you look at the majority of coaches in college sports,
yeah,
across the table, Charlton, 70% of them are Caucasian.
Yep.
Period. If you take all the sports and move them together, football, basketball, baseball, track and field, 75% of the coaches in the NCAA are Caucasian.
Yeah.
You're not trying to find a way to take their money from them, Charlton.
No, they're not.
But if those tables were flipped, and those are all minority coaches, it'd be easy to take that 10% and pay players, Charlton. It's very easy.
Yeah.
And the coaches could vote on that unilaterally, Charlton. If the coaches got together and say, hey, this is what we propose. We propose as coaches to take 10% of all of our salaries across the board, and we pay our team players at our university. 10% of our salary will go into a coffer to pay for those players on those sports teams at our university.
Yeah.
I would like to see that pulled to a national poll and poll all the coaches. Would they be in agreement to that?
Yeah.
Because now we take it from underneath the table, Charlton, of people being paid. We know what players are going to get to go to a university. So there's not going to be any cheating, paying somebody off with, having Nike or Reebok give a kid $100,000 or $200,000,
yes,
underneath the table. We know what's going on at the university. And now with sports betting being made legal nationally, Charlton, the NCAA needs to address this sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because players will start addressing it by controlling games even more, Charlton, financially for other people.
I think that is even more so going to be a spotlight with the fact that North Carolina players are turning themselves. They let it be known just so they could get ahead of whatever headwind is out there. But we know there's a lot of people getting money under the table. They're not telling anybody. And that's ironic that the players, that they will go and have more character than the coaches. They will actually say to the coach, Coach, maybe I did something wrong. I was a little bit hungry, didn't have money to help my mom pay her light bill, and then this guy named Michael Jordan gave me some shoes that cost $7,000 as opposed to some scholarship money. I'm not saying Michael had to do anything. He doesn't have to do anything at all, but that's to promote his own shoes. You would think that someone that was had a bigger heart would say, let me give a food stipend of $7,000 for your athletes so they don't have to go hungry because they can't get work outside of whatever scholarship stipend. I think it's 3 meals a day they get in the snack bar. That would be more conscientious. And if we even draw a parallel, and I'm not knocking anybody who gives, they can do what they want to do. But to praise Jordan for giving that kind of gift to his alma mater, as opposed to a food stipend or a scholarship for the kids to go to college, like LeBron James did back in Akron, you would think that would make sense. Not to knock Mike, but who wants to be like Mike when you could be like LeBron James? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's so true. So many student athletes, Charlton, don't get sufficient nutrition throughout their school years because they spend so much time, Charlton, working out. A lot of them miss a lot of the meal times because they got to do extra time. But they're also hungry because they put out more calories than any other person on campus, Charlton.
Yeah, they do.
So these athletes need more nutrition. And yes, they have the training tables that they can go to, Charlton, but you have to be leery about what you eat during the day, and you can only load up at night.
Yeah.
So you get through practice and you're hungry. But, you don't have training table on the weekends, Charlton.
No, you don't.
Especially during the off season. You got training table during the football season.
Yeah.
The rest of the time you got to eat in the dining commons, but you still have to work out all the time.
Yep.
But, with the amount of revenue that they generate for even the smallest of universities, Charlton, the NAIA schools, the Division II, Division I AA, they're the major breadwinners financially for these universities.
Yeah.
And we've talked about how the television contracts have gotten larger and larger, and these schools are benefiting from it. And, you're getting the shoe sponsorship from the shoe companies that are out there fighting to get these. There's 4 shoe companies that are constantly fighting, Charlton, to get these universities to sign with them. And so these coaches in the university get these huge endorsement deals from these shoe companies.
Yeah.
But the advertiser is the players. The players are the ones marketing the product on television. No one's paying attention to what the coach is wearing on the sideline.
No.
They only care about what the guy on the center is wearing, the guy who's making the reception or the interception.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking at. They see the coach, they see his face. They see the player, they see what the player is wearing. I haven't seen any apparel store, whether it's on campus, Charlton, or one of these, mainstream, in the mall apparel stores.
Yeah.
I don't see them wearing coach on the stand.
Right.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
I see jerseys with numbers and names on them. Even in the bookstores on campus, Charlton, there's jerseys with names on them. Whether it's basketball, football, baseball, Charlton, that's what sells. The coach's gear, it's not a hot item. When you look up in the stands during game day, Charlton, you see jerseys. You don't see a jacket up there saying coach on the lapel.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? How many people, we talk about the recruiting thing all the time. You were just talking the other day about how Nebraska's program, they used to get kids from the West Coast and from way down south under Osborne, how Osborne actually spent some money to get Lawrence Phillip out of jail after he had a situation with he had a fight with a woman or some girl that he was dating at Nebraska. But how many of these coaches will go into a parent's house and say, we're going to also petition to get your kids some money because we're going to make a heck of a lot of money off of your son. Thanks for sending your boy to play for our school. Do you think that's ever in any of the conversations? For example, Ed Oliver, University of Houston, defensive end, 6'3", 290-pound playmaker. Now, he wants to play in the NFL next year, and of course, who doesn't? But do you think when they recruited him to the University of Houston that they told him that not only are you going to come make some money for the University of Houston, we're going to do what we can to see if we can get you paid for your labor? Because that conversation has been heard and talked about by so many people. Are coaches just ignoring that? Is that something they don't talk about and they push it off and say, well, we don't want to talk about that just yet, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you look at the University of Houston, Charlton, who's gone through a huge stadium expansions over the last 3 years.
They have.
That's generated by the players and the turnaround of that program. Greg Ward was a great quarterback there, Charlton. who helped stem that, drive from the alumni and boosters and everyone else talking to do stadium funding and expansion, just like at the University of Louisville, with Jackson, while he was quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner. They got a drive together, Charlton, and did a stadium expansion there with Bobby Petrino as the head coach. So both of those schools have benefited from the success of their athletes, Charlton, in stadium expansion. You don't build new basketball arenas that seat 20,000 people, Charlton, because you have a losing program.
Yeah.
You do it because you have these tremendous athletes around. And when you recruit these athletes, you tell them, you got to be playing in front of these huge crowds in football. You got to be playing in front of 70,000 people in basketball.
Yeah.
You got to be playing in front of 20,000 people. And you're going to be a part of it. You help creating the atmosphere there. But you can't get any of the money from those people that are buying the seats.
Yep.
You can't have any of that. We're going to get you a Subway sandwich after the game, and you should be okay. We'll give you a can of Coke also to drink with that.
Subway.
And you should feel happy.
Yep.
But, you can't take any of this memorabilia you have. Those shoes we give you, those T-shirts, you can't sell those. That's what you can't do. If you do that, now you're in violation because you've turned the profit off your own property.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You're not allowed to reap the benefits of you. That's the bad thing about the NCAA, Charlton.
Yeah.
Is that when they go out and recruit, they say, okay, I know when I was recruited, you could call your parents twice a week. They'll let you come in and call home twice a week.
Yeah.
Speak to your family. We didn't have cell phones. So every kid now has a cell phone, so that's no attraction.
You didn't know what a cell phone was when you went to school, Big C? You're not that old, Big C.
Charlton, we had 10 pairs with a screen between them and coated with wax and talked to each other from room to room.
Yeah, I understand those days.
So, those are the amenities that we got.
Yeah.
Now, you have to go above and beyond with these players.
Yeah.
But, I just have problems with the NCAA saying that a player cannot profit from his own property.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong. So like I said, if you have a car and you want to sell your car because you're short on funds, that's an NCAA violation, basically.
Yeah.
You have a sweatsuit and you want to sell it because maybe as an offensive lineman you've outgrown it.
Yeah.
And you want to sell that.
Yeah.
That's an NCAA violation. So, you think about how tedious they get, Charlton, as far as going after players. Policing players. I mean, the gendarmes are coming out there saying, we're going to get you in anything that we can. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How can a player be motivated to know that you're being watched all the time and scrutinized on every little action that you do?
Yep. Well, I want to run something by you. And I know we say, well, life is about those who have knowledge, imparting that knowledge, and bequeathing that knowledge to those who don't have it. Bryce Love, running back, Stanford University, up for the Heisman Trophy contention, at least in the talks. He gained 8.1 yards a carry in 2017. He had many Pac-12 records. Should be even better this year as an athlete. We look at Nick Bosa, Ohio State defensive end, every bit as good as his brother. The Bosa had 16 tackles for loss and 8.5 sacks in 2017. And who I think might be the most dominant defensive player in college football this year is Christian Wilkins. And he's none other than Clemson, Dabu Sweeney's good old boy. The lineman, 6'4", 310 pounds. Now he's going to be so dominant on the defensive side of the line. What obligation, Big C, would these players who are going to be pushed for first-round draft picks and even Heisman Trophy contention, do we put any obligation for them to be like some of the NFL players and say, wait a minute, I'm All-American, you're going to pump me as an All-American for your school. That means you're going to be on TV more. You're going to get more national attention. We need to start talking about how to get some money for my brethren, meaning the former players. Is that too much to ask these college kids? Because they're going to be all over the news networks every single week coming up. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're being covered already. Prior to even spring ball starting, the networks have been going out, seeking out these top flight players, trying to get them to speak. But they're limited in what they can say, because their scholarships on the line. Be suspended.
Yeah.
You can't say anything controversial. I mean, Jalen Hurts down at Alabama, spoke out about the quarterback controversy. Now he said, catch out the bag. No one came to me prior to saying anything. But Nick Saban stopped all of that. You can't go out as a player and say anything about the university other than that you love being there. Even when your job is on the line. Here's a kid who's 26-2 as a starter and potentially may not be the starter.
Yeah.
And if he's not going to be the starter, then Nick Saban should tell him that and say, hey, you can transfer because he's going to graduate in December. He could be just like Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
He can graduate and still have 2 years left of eligibility at another university, Charlton. But you're controlling these young men's lives for your benefit in every capacity.
Yeah.
You know, you're sanctioning kids saying, we're not going to let you transfer. We're not going to let you out your scholarship. So basically, you own them is what they're saying.
Yeah.
I know Nick Saban went through that a year ago when he had a defensive back who wanted to transfer to the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
The kid had already graduated. He blocked his transfer to the University of Georgia.
Nick Saban blocked it?
He said it's within the conference.
You said Nick Saban blocked it, the transfer?
Nick Saban blocked the transfer. And it's a stupid rule that the SEC has, that if you're a graduate transfer, they'll allow you to transfer, but not within the conference. Now, the kid was a backup defensive back at Alabama, Charles.
Yeah.
How much was he going to go in and change up the University of Georgia? The University of Georgia already had gotten Alabama's defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So they had the guy who had the key to the box. You know, the player was just another player.
Yeah.
But you didn't block your assistant coach, Kirby Smart, although he was Anglo, he was white,
Yep.
from going to get the job, paying him $4.5 million a year.
Yes.
But this black defensive back that wanted to transfer to that same university that Kirby Smart got the job and $4.5 million a year, you said no, he can't go. So you think about that. You talk about antitrust.
Yep.
Nick Saban being racist. I don't care how you want to color that.
Yeah.
But he told the black kid he couldn't go, but he gave the white guy all the accolades in the world.
Remember back in the day, it was Troy Aikman was recruited by Barry Switzer out of Henry area, Oklahoma, played for the Oklahoma Sooners, broke his leg in a game versus the University of Miami Hurricanes, and he called Terry Donahue at UCLA all the way across the country in Pasadena and told Terry Donahue, I have a quarterback that can play in your system. And then Jamel Holloway came in, I believe he was out of Southern California, and played quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners, and they went on and played for the national championship at Oklahoma. And UCLA had Troy Aikman rest up and came back and ultimately went to a Rose Bowl. But they didn't block Troy Aikman from going from Oklahoma to UCLA. They encouraged it. In fact, it was Switzer who initiated the action to get Donahue to bring him on as a scholarship athlete. And Troy was actually up for the Heisman Trophy and helped UCLA win a Pac-12 championship. How has that, well, you know, he was Caucasian. That's something I don't put in mind. But what Nick Saban tried to do, in fact, what he did do was block a player from leaving. But, you know, 30 years ago, Troy Aikman, that's how he got to UCLA. I don't know if a lot of people know that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, it's the same thing with Russell Wilson, Charlton, when he was at North Carolina State. You know, they had a new coaching regime came in. They said they wanted to play Mike Glennon, who has become a journeyman in the NFL.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson transferred to Wisconsin, took them to a Rose Bowl, and he's gone to 2 Super Bowls with Seattle.
Yeah.
Charlton, some coaches freely let players go. But when you're so egotistical, and Nick's a great coach, but he's egotistical also.
Yeah.
You know, he handles the media like puppets. But
yep.
They all look like Pinocchio when he's around talking. And they're scared to challenge him, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they don't want to get their press credentials yanked.
Yeah.
So they never challenge him.
Yeah.
And here was this player, his name was Smith, that he blocked. And you have to ask yourself, how damaging is it? The kid has already graduated.
Yeah.
He's going to go someplace else and play on the scouts. He's fulfilling his obligation to you.
Yeah.
Think about that. He fulfilled his obligation to the University of Alabama.
Yes.
He got his degree in 4 years, yet he had another year of eligibility left to play in college football. And they did not want him to fulfill his dream.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they say when they recruit you?
That's what they say.
We're giving you an opportunity to fulfill your dreams of being a college athlete, a student athlete, player.
Yeah.
And Nick Saban is saying, no, I'm not allowing you to fulfill your dream because it doesn't include me.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's selfishness.
Yeah.
As a head coach who's making $9 million a year, you're being selfish to a player that wasn't even good enough to start for you.
Yeah.
to say, no, we're not letting you go and play within our conference. But my defensive coordinator, who now is the head coach at that university, making $4.5 million,
wow.
I gave him praise and probably gave him a new Mercedes to drive down there.
probably a new Mercedes, I understand. But you know what? When you think about the fact that there was Randy Moss, I think he was not blocked also for when he ended up at Marshall, but he had issues.
He started with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
That's where Randy Marshall started.
So we know.
Then he went to Florida State.
Yeah, so we know.
He ended up at Marshall.
We know there's situations where coaches have not interfered with players who wanted to go elsewhere. In fact, they helped them, whether it was Troy Aikman or whether it was Randy Moss, and they actually stood up on their side. So I would hope that Saban, whether it's Jalen or is it Tua Tagovailoa, is that his name? How they now say that 3 or 4 times? Okay, so obviously competition is everywhere, and you got to compete for your job. There's no guarantee. But I rarely see a guy.
Think about this, Charlton.
Yeah.
Remember the game when that USC horse died down there in Texas?
They would drug him.
Okay. Jalen Hurts' first game.
Yeah.
As a freshman.
Lynn Swan remembers.
Alabama started a sophomore quarterback.
Yeah.
Who transferred the next week. And Nick Saban didn't hold him back. He left the next week after Jalen Hurts took over the game and ran that horse into the ground out there in Texas.
Yeah.
And nobody, he never said anything about that. But when Smith tried to transfer to Georgia, where he grew up and went to high school, Charlton, he said no. The quarterback that transferred when Hurts took over was white.
Yep.
The defensive back was black.
Well, I tell you what, people may not understand that, but it is a mentality that I think a lot of people have understood. It still exists. And even when it comes to getting the employment opportunity, that exists too for those coaches who are looking for those opportunities. Again, it goes back, we talked about yesterday how Terrell Owens helped create some publicity for University of Tennessee Chattanooga that won't be created otherwise had he not done that. No matter how many games they played, they would not get the exposure that T.O. brought to them just for doing that. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. So I know, Big C, that you've always talked about the fairness of players. And if you don't, a dog that won't wag his own tail is a pretty sad dog. And I know a lot of players can't say anything, or they may have their scholarships stripped away. But I think what the players at North Carolina did, going back to the NCAA and reported it to the officials, that's something that even Urban Meyer did not do, meaning going to the officials, the people that are accountable for you and you're accountable to them. So they get credit for that, but they still have no money to show for it, though, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Urban Meyer got administrative leave.
You said he didn't get that.
Paid.
Yeah.
Okay, he gets paid.
Yeah.
They didn't say he didn't get paid. He gets paid.
Yeah.
The players got sanctioned. You think about that, Charlton. They miss a game. That game could have been a pivotal game in the team's schedule, in their potential of playing in front of an NFL scout. All the things, Charlton, that could affect him. But the number one thing that's going to be drawn in with these players now is their character, Charlton.
Yeah.
People are going to say they have character flaws because they're out there trying to make money.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer was covering up money, keeping Zach Smith on the roster. You think about that, as a head coach, that's abusing, you got an assistant that's abusing somebody, and you don't fire him day one. I mean, there's been a history of that. Joe Paterno never fired Gary Sandusky. He knew what he was doing.
He never did fire him.
He didn't get rid of him.
That's right.
And any and every other coach, Charlton, that has had some allegation of impropriety within their, coaching staff.
Yeah.
Every one of them, Charlton, has been an aider and abettor.
Wow.
Okay, that's what they've done. They've been an aider and abettor to these criminal activities that have gone on. And these coaches don't get sanctioned like these players. Think about it. These players are all going to miss a game for a damn pair of shoes.
Isn't that something?
Shoes.
Yeah.
You're going to miss a game out of your college career over a pair of shoes.
Yep.
And these coaches are watching women get beat up. watching little boys get abused. And none of them were saying anything.
No.
But the players self-policed themselves, saying, hey, we sold some shoes.
So they could eat. I tell you what, at some point in time, that's so much common sense in what you just said that has to eventually be addressed. And so I just want to touch on a milestone in the world of sports. In his 39th season will be his last for William and Mary head coach Jamie Laycock, announcing his retirement at the age of 70. That's a lot of coaching. At 70 to still be coach. You're supposed to be out fishing on that creek down south with that net. Unlike the other guys that haven't realized they fish with a hook. They should get a net. You get a lot more fish, Big C. But talk about coaching 39 years. Doing anything in 39 years is a long haul. 39 years coaching, mentoring young people to be better people when they leave than they were when they got there, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton is also at your alma mater.
Yeah.
That's the main thing about it. A place that taught you, that gave you your start as a player and then a coach. And you spend 39 years at this place, dedicated years, Charlton, to changing and affecting young men's lives. That's a lifetime. And you said William and Mary, so that's 2 universities or one.
I think they pay homage to each other.
William or Mary, okay, so William and Mary.
William and Mary, yep.
But you think about it, to spend that type of time, Charlton, and have over 270 victories under your belt.
Yeah.
And 39 years without what we have going on at Ohio State right now, Charlton?
Yeah.
Well, a scandal?
Yeah,
we haven't heard one iota of any improprieties at William or Mary's University, okay?
Yeah. Now you're trying to say they should have more women run the universities and not be as focused on the football and we have fewer scandals. But that when you go 39 years at anything, especially when you have to mentor young kids, because when you're about 17, 18, of course, 19 years old, that's when you're heading into college. And we know you're away from home for the most part for the first time in your life. You're away from your traditional routine that you've had for 17, 18 years. Now you have to go off to a college. And hopefully, if you're a parent, you want to trust who's watching your kids. And for someone to be at the helm of anything for 39 years, we can't have guys seem to get through 10 years without some type of scandal, especially at Division I level. And for a coach to do that for 39 years, just want to wish him congratulations. I've always been told, if you do what you love, that you never work a day in your life. And sometimes it's challenging, but you press through it. I'm sure, just give me your thoughts on what do you think some of the things he's overcome in 39 years, being responsible for every little thing that each one of his athletes did. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about it, Charlton, that's 4 decades of coaching.
Yeah.
You think about what he's seen change. We talked about the cell phone. There weren't cell phones, there weren't social media.
Yeah.
When he started coaching.
Does he still have a cell phone? Do you think he has a cell phone this day, Big C?
He may have a flip phone still. But
Yeah.
the internet was not there, Charlton, when he started coaching.
Wow.
Well, when you went out recruiting, you had to go see players, not just
email
them and stuff, Charlton.
Yeah.
Do FaceTime with them. He was a traditional coach, Charlton, who did things the way coaching was done decades ago. He wasn't this modern, flamboyant coach that, it's all about me.
Yeah.
It was all about his players. And like I said, when you can win over 270 games at one institution, Charlton.
Wow.
You think about people in the lines of, the great Grambling coach.
Yeah, Eddie Robinson.
Eddie Robinson.
Yeah.
Who won over 400 games.
Wow.
Without scandal or any problem.
Wow.
That's what you look at. Being at one university for 4 decades and doing it right. That's what everyone in college football needs to look at. Doing it right.
Yep.
Academically. I'd love to see his graduation ratio, Charlton, because I would say it's way up there. You don't spend 39 years at an institution not graduating kids, Charlton.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. When you think about that, what coaches come to your mind? I know we had Paterno was squeaky clean until we found out what was going on. But there's a lot of other coaches that have been around. We talked about Eddie Robinson. I still think of John McKay at USC, where he had such a milestone of bringing in great players through USC that went on to play professional sports. And guys that actually made the university proud, with you going back to Marcus Allen, Garrett, and also Davis that ran the kickoff back for a touchdown versus Notre Dame. Anthony Munoz, I think, played under in that USC program under McKay, and Sam Bam Cunningham, the late Sam Bam Cunningham. What coaches come to your mind that have, of course, not 39 years? Dean Smith, of course. Who else can be in his pantheon of great coaching that lasted more than a cup of coffee, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you go back to Ohio State with Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler at Michigan, Charlton. You look at the coach that was at Florida State, Bobby Bowden. You know, coaches at, Del Royal at Texas. Coaches that did long stints of time. We talked about, the University of Oklahoma with that 58-game winning streak, Charlton.
Yeah.
The coach that they had. There was coaches that were around college football for a long, long time. Paul Bear Bryant was there.
Yeah.
At Alabama. He had a historical run there after he left Texas A&M.
Yeah.
So, coaches have been around for a long time. Frank Kush, the late Frank Kush at Arizona State.
That's right.
Built a dynasty out in the desert that, propelled that program to one of the top programs in the country prior to him leaving.
Yeah.
There's been a whole wealth of coaches, Charlton, over the decades out there that have been mentors and fathers for so many of these young men throughout the country that have gone on and become leaders in our society.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to look across the board, Charlton. It's very easy to say certain coaches stand above everybody else. I mean, even Jim Tressel, prior to his fall with Ohio State.
Yeah.
You look at what he did at Youngstown State and Ohio State, Charlton, just for the state of Ohio alone.
Yeah.
He and Woody Hayes were the top two names in that when it came to coaching.
Yeah.
You go back to Ed Parsegian at Notre Dame, Newt Rodney at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
These coaches were legendary, Charlton, not just as coaches, but as people who taught young men how to become men.
Yeah, I think also the women's side of the ledger for basketball, the late Pat Summitt, Tennessee, how long she was at the helm running the Volunteers program. Also Vanderveer out at University of Stanford, how they've been around for a long time. And they made their programs nationally ranked, and they turned out high-quality people. And so I just want to say congratulations for anyone that can last 39 years doing anything. Lots of praise goes out to you. For some of my brethren, I've seen some NASCAR races, Big C, back in the day, and I've seen some of these good old boys driving a little bit too fast for my likings. I know down south you don't think they drive too fast at all. But NASCAR ratings, they're actually down by about 50% in attendance this year. And also that is the tribute to the NFL player Brian France, who was arrested on a DWI. You know how when the NASCAR ratings are down, they don't say it's anything to do with the flag. If the NFL ratings, they say they're down, they're really not down. They're just a lot of people are streaming now. But just talk about this stupid incident. People just haven't learned how to drive without being under the influence of something. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, and he'll get a slap on the hand. He'll go to rehab. I mean, if you're a minority, you go to jail, period. Flat out.
Yeah.
But when you look at this situation, Charlton, and the NASCAR ratings are down on television 50% this year, and you have no one crying and say, well, the drivers are not standing for the national anthem.
Yeah.
Think about that. No one is saying that the national anthem and the drivers are not correlated in NASCAR.
Yeah.
And attendance is down, Charlton, probably about 30% at the tracks. So you think about that. You got television ratings down 50%. You got attendance rating down 30%. Now, the NFL has never had been down 30% on the attendance rating.
No.
Think about that.
No.
But no one has ever said that the NFL ratings are down 50% either. And you think about NASCAR, that's the administration's base when you look at it. NASCAR is his base. He's not coming out saying that the NASCAR ratings are down,
no,
that people are tuning it out, that people are not going. What is the reason for that, Charlton? And I'm down here in the NASCAR heart.
Yeah.
I think you can only make so many left turns that people kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what has driven NASCAR ratings down, is that there are so many options, and even the diehard NASCAR viewer has found other options on the television, Charlton.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to watch that. Yeah.
They're looking at other things that give them a little more excitement.
Yeah.
And so when you sit there and say that your ratings are down 50%, The only other sport we read that in, Jonathan, was golf when Tiger Woods was non-existent.
Yeah.
The ratings went down 53%.
Yep.
But I don't hear anything from the administration crying about NASCAR's ratings being down and gate receipts being down and having to do anything with the flag.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think if they were to realize they got to make the courses where people can turn right. If you give people a chance to not just turn left the whole time when you're watching TV, you know how you ever put some food in front of a kid, and when they're a little kid and they're sitting in that baby seat and you're trying to feed them some mashed potatoes, and you roll around like you got the airplane. You can't just have them turn their head one direction, Big C. They got to go back the other direction, and I think that's what's happening with NASCAR. They got to find a way to reconfigure that track. But I think that because of streaming and OTT programming, a lot of programs, they don't have a Nielsen rating attached to it. I do want to just look at some of the things going on in the world of the NFL. You know, we're talking about the second week of NFL preseason is already upon us. We know we had the preseason game, and we had the Bears versus the Ravens is one thing, but even on Thursday night, the Buccaneers are playing the Dolphins in a preseason game down in Miami, and also you're going to have on Thursday the Panthers are playing the Bills. Now, we don't really know much about these teams yet. The Bears are playing the Bengals, also the Steelers and the Eagles, last year's Super Bowl champions. Anything kind of sticks out in your mind as to there's so many players that have been hurt, Big C. We haven't even gotten to week 2 of preseason yet. Your thoughts?
Well, Jonathan, this is the trouble with all the heat in training camp and players trying to adjust to the new rules of the league, and they're altering the way that they play. And if you recall in this first preseason game at the Hall of Fame game, the excessive amount of flags that were thrown for personal fouls and targeting, as they want to call it, Jonathan. And players weren't always making contact with their helmet.
No.
But I think that the officials are going to throw a lot of flags during the preseason trying to get players to alter.
Yeah.
Jonathan, when you're in the heat of battle, it's hard to change up what you do.
Yeah.
When you cut a steak, you normally put that knife in your right hand and cut it.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to put it in the left hand and cut it, And so that's what they're asking players to do. If you're right-handed, you cut that steak with your right hand.
Yeah.
It's hard to learn how to cut it with your left hand. And so that's what they're asking players to do now as far as contact in this game, Jonathan.
Yeah.
If you spent your life cutting with your right hand, and now you got to start cutting with your left hand.
Well,
that takes some time to adjust, and while you're doing that, you might cut a finger. So all of a sudden, you're getting hurt.
Well, now that you got me a little bit hungry, when you cook your steak, Big C, does Big C like his steak fried, deep fried, or do you fry it on a skillet? Do you cook it on a barbecue grill, or do you put it on that George Foreman grill? How does Big C like his perfect steak, Big C? Your thoughts?
Jonathan, we have this grill in the backside. It's 30,000 BTUs.
Okay.
The grates are red.
Yep.
So we slap the steak on there. We got 3 minutes on one side, 2 minutes on the other. Turn it off, let it rest for a couple minutes.
Yes.
And this little sharp object called a knife and a fork.
Yep.
It's party time.
It's party time with this thing. I really want to take this time to thank all the cows and the cattle that are so committed to our gluttony, because that they're willing to lay down their lives for gluttonous Americans, especially for the football season. And have you ever thought, where do they get such small chicken wings? I see so many advertisers now saying, come get your chicken wings. You get 2 for 1 on chicken wings. How many chickens are sacrificing their lives for the gluttony of football, Dixie? Your thoughts?
Well, they're running scared right now with football season starting, Jonathan. I think that's the number one consumer food during football season is chicken wings.
Yep.
So if nothing else, the price of them will go up.
The price will go up. Speaking of the price going up, when we look at preseason football, Redskins and Patriots also Thursday night. No Cousins playing, as you say, your cousin. No cousin anymore in Washington, D.C. The Patriots, of course, with Brady. Are you going to see maybe a series or even 2 with Brady? And, obviously, he has this TB12, how he eats and conditions, etc. Is it even necessary for Brady to play in this preseason game against the Redskins, knowing that he usually ends up playing in the final game of the year anyway in the Super Bowl? Big, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think you want to give all your veterans at least a series or 2.
Yeah.
Because you spent the time in training camp like everybody else. You're going to get a plethora of rookies and second and third year players, but you want to get your veterans just some timing.
Yeah.
Just to see how they react in real game conditions. No more than 2 series max. but I think you'll see Brady get some airtime.
Alex Smith, coming from obviously the 49ers, had success there, and then Kaepernick took over his job. Then going into Kansas City, had success there under Reed, but not enough to keep him. And now he finds himself in Washington playing for Snyder. He's going up against Brady. Does he have anything to prove, or is it just 2 series and be done with it? Or do they want to hold back the playbook? What does he have to shine against Tom Brady to say, hey, I'm the same kind of caliber quarterback? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, if you go back to last year's season opener, he and Brady were matched up, Kansas City, New England, and I think everybody remembers who came out on top of that game.
City, yeah.
That was Kansas City, and Alex Smith outbuilt him. Like, this is not a matchup when you look at the first preseason game of veteran quarterbacks, Charlton. You know, you're going to be having Gruden and Belichick looking at their young players to see what they have.
Yeah.
They're trying to build their roster depth, Charlton. They're not trying to get Alex Smith to prove that he's a bona fide NFL starter, Charlton. Alex Smith, before it's all said and done, while he's in Washington, was taking his 3rd NFL team to the playoffs.
Wow.
So his legacy is already laid in the NFL. You know, Washington has brought in some good, solid pieces. They had a lot of injuries last year, Charlton. They want to get those guys who were injured a couple snaps in the game, then turn it over to the young players.
When you look at Green Bay and Tennessee, that game is going to be a 5 o'clock kickoff also in Green Bay. Lambeau Field, whether it's a playoff game, preseason game, or regular season game, what a great place to watch a football game. You have Mariota coming in for the Tennessee Titans. Aaron Rodgers not really happy with his receiving core, his young receiving core. Just your thoughts, even though they mainly played 2 series, your thoughts on this would be a great Week 9 game or Week 15 game, but a preseason game still, Mariota and then Rodgers. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, I don't think it benefits either one of these teams, Charlton, to start their starting quarterbacks. We know that Mariota was injured a couple times last year. Aaron Rodgers still had that collarbone. So why take the risk with Aaron Rodgers? You know what you have with Aaron.
Yeah.
Mariota is a guy. You need to find out who his backup is, as well as in Green Bay. So I don't think you'll see either one of those starting quarterbacks play at all in this game, Charlton, and they will wait later on, maybe their 3rd preseason game before Aaron Rodgers gets any time.
Before, well, back in the day, going back 20 years ago, when you saw the 49ers coming out to Candlestick, always one of the best, I guess the premier game of the NFL, preseason kickoff, 49ers and Prescott at 49ers Garoppolo. 2 young quarterbacks, both have been very, very hyped quarterbacks. We know that one has been in the playoffs with Prescott, you know, pushing Dallas. And then you look at Garoppolo, they're trying to say he's the next Joe Montana. Your thoughts, if they even played 2 or 3 series, your thoughts on their performance, Big C?
Well, I think both of these quarterbacks will play the first couple of series in this game. Charlton, Garoppolo is trying to pick up on where he finished off last year. Everybody talked about the upside of him. No one talked about the 5 interceptions that he dropped in all the game that he failed to produce any points. It was all field goals. So his statistics are a little watered down when you really take a look at him, Charlton. Prescott needs to find some rhythm that he did not have last year, Charlton. He has a whole new receiving corps.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the tight end he's had since he's been in the league. He doesn't have Dez Bryant. So he has to work in 2 to 3 new receivers this year, Charlton, in the scheme of Dallas's offense.
Last thoughts, Big C, you have the Colts, Andrew Luck, will he suit up against Seattle? Legion of Boom is gone, but you know that's still a tough place to play. Will they put Luck on the field for 2, maybe 3 series up in Seattle? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they say that Luck is going to throw the football, Charlton. And I'm curious, will he throw the football in this game? And, you know, there hasn't been any tape of him zipping the football. You've seen him push the football down the field. And you know, that reminded me a lot of Peyton Manning in that last Super Bowl against Carolina, Charlton. He was pushing the ball. He wasn't throwing the ball.
Yeah.
And so that's the position I see Andrew Luck in right now, is an elder Peyton Manning. Is that he's pushing the football, but he's not launching the football.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of NFL games on slate for Thursday, so their teams have been in travel mode. They're already where they're going to be kicking off. I just hope that we can cut down on the injuries. I'd love to see all of the teams get out of this preseason healthy. We know a lot of the players that you see playing longevity will not be a part of their career, but at least for the guys who've been around, I hope they can stay safe. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, With all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, one thing, tell me this. How many days are in 3 weeks?
21 as far as my calendar, Big C.
21. Okay, so let's subtract 3 from that.
Yeah.
Because we're 18 days away from college football kickoff.
Wow.
And we all know that college football is king down here in the South. So college football is king just like King James in the NBA.
Yep.
2 great things going at the same time.
At the same time. Kind of like moonshine on ice. 2 great things that come together, Big C. Speaking of great things, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.